back out into the lake. But 4 of those fish disappeared upstream for 9 to 25 days in the river, so they were most likely at the spawning site. And in the limited number of days that we sampled, which was probably total of maybe 15 or 16 hours, we did catch 2 of those males up at the spawning site. And so that was a surprise to see 50% of the fish return to spawn, or return to the spawning site the year after we tagged them. So this is some of the acoustic information we collected. And these green dots are the stationary receivers we had out on the Delta. And I'll talk about those very briefly, but the dots that you see on this are the boat location where we recorded the strongest signal for a fish on a particular day. Because often, in particular in 2015, we'd go out and find a fish, and we would run transects to the north and south and east and west to try to narrow down where these fish were, just looking at signal strength. So what this figure shows you is the strongest signals for a fish on a given day. And you can see that they're spread along the delta. This is probably, including Apple Tree Bay here, is probably about 11 miles long. But they were consistently there between 12 feet of water and 28 feet of water for 2015. And you can see the similar pattern to this last year, 2016. We did the same thing. We had a different crew. We didn't do as much east-west, north-south work as we would have hoped to, but they were still in the same pattern in terms of where they were. You'll see this, oops, I don't know what I did there. There's some detections up here in the Lamoille or Mounds Bay. There's a actual causeway here that's an old railroad bridge that segments this section out. But those detections up in Mounds Bay were from that Lamoille River fish. We've never seen a Winooski River fish moving in Mounds Bay. So what we noticed from 2015, and this is the 2016 data, was that these fish seem to begin to move into a much smaller area during the fall months, November and December, and you can see that on this slide. They moved here. As I said, we were trying to find areas we could sample these fish more effectively. We were hoping to find over-winter congregations. We had a fish down in what I'll call Apple Tree Bay area, and we were hoping that might be a second, overwintering congregation. We didn't expect to get out on Lake Champlain in the winter, as I said, but we've had 2 mild winters. And so when we went out and looked in 2016 in February, which I would have also lost money betting that I could take a boat out on Champlain in February. That was unheard of. All 10 fish that were tagged, including the one down in Apple Tree Bay, had moved into this smaller area. Again, these are the strongest signals for that day we were out, near that mid-Winooski Delta stationary receiver. And I can just talk about that. We put these receivers out briefly, I'll mention, we put these receivers out with no idea where to put them. We just thought we found them from one end of the Delta, the next we'd spread them out. We just dropped the receivers in. You can't have floats on them in the winter either. And on this receiver in the middle of the Delta, we had 530,000 detections of lake sturgeon. So it doesn't really prove much other than, we have 530 detectors. You can't put that on a slide or a graph or a figure. But it did show that, they are overwintering here, and the few times they moved away, they were picked up by the receiver to the north or the receiver to the south. So when you look at the other dates we got out last winter, we were out in March and early February. The March, all 10 fish were still located in the same general area. And then in the April day we got out, 9 of the fish were located, in the same area, but 1 fish had moved to the north and was picked up by that receiver we had up on the north. So we feel pretty confident that this is an area they congregate to overwinter in. And so we were out in January of 2017. So 2 years in a row we've been able to get out on Lake Champlain in the winter. And now we have 19 tags on the Delta, and you can see they follow the same pattern. We're spread out a little further, but we're hoping to get out later in the winter and see if that tightens up. And again, this is the strongest signal for that day we were out for each of the 19 fish. So the other part I talked about was using this remote sensing equipment to see if we could estimate population abundance or numbers over time. And when I talk about that, I was talking about the DIDSEN, the split beam, and the side scan sonar units, and possibly video. So in the past year, we funded research with the University of Vermont to evaluate the use of some of this remote sensing techniques. And Lisa Izzo's here. She has a poster out in the hallway there. Donna Parrish is her advisor, and she'll be working on her dissertation to evaluate the DIDSIN and the side scan sonar and maybe something else in the future. We were fortunate enough to be able to purchase a research grade side scan this past summer, and the sales rep came up in June when we had these acoustic tag fish still in the Winooski River, so we could go into the river and use that side scan to see if we could locate any sturgeon. And there's an image of, maybe the first image of a sturgeon seen with a side scan in the Winooski River. And it's almost a classic, you know, this is about a 5-foot long fish and there's its shadow. So that worked out well. And then in the summer months, we also spent some time out on the Delta. I mean, Lisa spent a lot more time than me, but we were out in the Delta in the summer just to figure out how to use the equipment and what we needed to buy. And, you know, this is a sturgeon seen on the Delta during the summer months when, you know, they hadn't congregated yet. You know, these fish are spread out over that 11-mile reach of river, but we still were able to pick up a few images that were pretty confident are lake sturgeon. So with that, I would take questions. I put this slide in just to show you that Lake Champlain still had a large lake sturgeon at least through 2016. This fish washed up dead on one of the islands in Lake Champlain this past summer. I put this up here also to remind you to ask anybody if you know where I can buy gill nets with a stretch mesh bigger than 12 inches. I'd like to know where to do that. I've been trying to find a company that sells that, and I can't. Because after I picked this fish up and was holding his head, I don't think we're going to catch many of these fish in 12-inch stretch mesh. And the other reason I put it up is that I brought a poster of the spine sections from this fish, and I'll put it up on the wall out here if people want to try to age this fish, which was 6 foot 9 inches long. And by the time I got the weight, it was 165 pounds, and it had already started decaying. So I won't say I had an accurate weight, but it was a very large fish, what we typically see in Lake Champlain. So with that, I'd be glad to take any questions.
Question for Chad.
Not really. Awesome talk. I guess my question is, what role do you think sea lampreys have had in the greater conservation scheme here? I mean, you mentioned you thought you might be seeing a preliminary recovery due to the sea lamprey control efforts. I mean, when you're seeing adults, I mean, are they pretty scarred up, with all lamprey wounds, or what's the wisdom on that?
Yeah, I think sea lamprey, based on some of the work they did in the lab with Patrick and what we saw from '98 through 2003, were probably, when you talk about a exploitation rate of 5% would drive a sturgeon population or low based on fishing. I think sea lamprey are another exploiter that we don't typically account for in a natural sturgeon system where they are. And from '98 to 2002, I have some great photos of lake sturgeon that look like Hammond. We had over 200 and maybe 20 wounds per 100 fish, and now we're down to 16 or 17 wounds per 100 fish because the sea lamprey program has expanded a lot. And I had the opportunity this summer to talk to a commercial angler, probably the last commercial angler on Lake Champlain, and he told me when he would ship his sturgeon off to New York or to Boston to the markets, he got a call from the buyer in New York and wanted to know if he was dispatching them with a shotgun. Because in 1966 and 65, he started to see, incredible wounding on the sea lamprey that he was harvesting commercially. So, there's no way to prove that unless somebody wants to offer up a system where we could introduce sea lamprey and see what happens. But I think that if you just look at the exploitation and what it did in, commercial fisheries and recreational fisheries, this is not a normal mortality that sturgeon face in North America.
All right, I'd just like to say we'd like to thank all these folks for coming this morning.